Yeah. Good morning, students. My name is Dr. A. Ekana, the course lecturer for the course called 212. We're going to take this course with Professor Ibrahim Shaibu, we call it Dr. Godia Pius. And before we could proceed, it's normal that the course outline ought to be given. And as you know, it will also serve as a background, because without the course outline, whatever we're going to do, the aim will be defeated. So the course outline are as follows. First and foremost, we're going to look at the meaning and the nature of government. 2, we're going to look at the definition of politics. 3, we're going to look at pre-colonialism, backgrounds, and 4th, we'll have colonialism. The 5th, we have politics of decolonization. Equally, we are going to have constitutional development. The last but not the least, we are going to have the challenges of statehood. As I've mentioned earlier, that the first of the item has to do with the concept of government. That is the meaning of government. As we all know that government is a form of a method of ruling, and it can equally be seen as the whole machinery or system through which a particular society is governed. You can equally see government as what? The agency through which the will of the state is realized. You can as well see government as the body of people or institutions that make and execute the laws of the state. And some look at it as the act of governance, and equally the field of studies. As I've mentioned earlier, we are going to look at equally the 3 organs of government, because in every government you must have the 3 organs, and the 3 organs are legislative, executive, and finally we have judiciary. And it is expected at the end of this class, students, you should be able to know what is the government, and equally you should be able to explain the 3 organs of government, which I had mentioned earlier, that we have legislative, we have executive, and we have judiciary. The legislative, this is the arm of government whose primary function is to make laws for the entire country. And equally you see them in 2 aspects. We have the unicameral and the bicameral. Legislative can either be unicameral, single, chamber, or house, like Greece, Yugoslavia, Bulgaria, or you have it as what? Bicameral legislature, where it will consist of 2 houses, like Nigeria, USA, Britain. They are the example of what? Bicameral legislature. For instance, in Nigeria, the 2 chambers are the Senate and House of Representatives, which the Senate are referred as the upper chambers, that's the red chambers, while the House of Representatives is the lower chamber. Quickly, students, we're equally going to look at the second organ of government, which has to do with the executive arm of government, and is saddled with the responsibility of what? The power to carry out government decision, and equally to implement the law made by what? The legislature. And the composition of the executive is as follows. We have the executive includes politicians elected or nominated to the executive arm of government. This includes the president and his ministers in the presidential presidential system of government, and in the prime minister and his cabinet in the parliamentary system of government. Quickly, we're going to look at the last arm of government, which is the judiciary. The judiciary of any country is that organ of the government which interprets the constitution and the laws of the land. You know, normally it is expected that you students, you should be able to know that these 3 organs of government can work separately as a result of what? Separation of power. So if the legislative organ makes the law, it is not the duty of the legislative arm of government to interpret or to implement. Rather, it is the duty of the executive now to implement. Then the interpretation of the law has to do with the fact that it is the responsibility of the judiciary. That's why in Nigeria, as an example, you see that the judiciary, like the courts, they are saddled with the responsibility of what? Interpreting the law. This arm of government is made of legal experts divided into members of the bench and bar. Characteristics of judiciary, you find out that the types of government will have the federal system. Federal system of government is one in which power is distributed between one level of government and another. It also encourages of what? Centralization of power, decentralization of power. Yes, between the three organs or between the three levels or the three lists of government. For instance, in Nigeria, power is shared among federal, state and local government. Reasons for the adoption of federal constitution by countries include geographical proximity. Yeah. Then the second aspect has to do with the fear of domination of the minority by the majority, desire for local autonomy, and the largeness of country for unitary system. As a matter of fact, students, it is expected for you to know that when you talk about federalism or federal system of government, it is purely on aspect of what? Decentralization of power among the three organs of government or among the three levels of government. When you talk of levels, you talk of federal, state and local government. And when you talk of organs, you talk about executive, legislative and judiciary. When you talk about the list, you talk about exclusive list, concurrent list and residual list. Now coming down for you to the another form of government that has to do with unitary system of government. In the unitary system of government, the central government is supreme over other levels of government in the country. In fact, it is the opposite of the federalism. Federalism talks about decentralization, while the unitary talks about centralization of power. So unitary government is possible in homogeneous society where few ethnic groups, example Gambia, Sierra Leone, Britain, Ghana and France. And quickly, I would also want you to consider what is a presidential system of government. Students, it is expected. We know very well that some of you are familiar with these concepts, but not in a formal way. But today, we are going to discuss them in a formal way so that at the end of the day, you should be able to understand and you can use it at your will. Presidential system of government is the head of state and head of government. Here is voted into power through direct election we have in Nigeria, or through an indirect election, example of United States. You see, when you look at the presidential system of government, it varies in some countries. Like when you go to the United States of America, elections were not done directly. But in Nigeria, the elections were done directly. For you to even elect your president, it must be done directly. So president is voted into power through an indirect election in the United States of America. That wasn't enough. They went ahead and brought in the United States of America, we found out what we call electoral college of the Congress. It then means having the majority from the masses, it is not enough. You have to balance it alongside the electoral college, because the electoral college members are the owners of the economy. They hold the means of economy. They hold the means of both production and distribution. So therefore, they are the one to also decide. They have to checkmate the election be done by the masses. So that's why most of us were surprised when we saw that Hillary Clinton wasn't declared as the winner of the then election between her and Trump. Trump, he actually, from the masses, has gotten it almost done. But based on the power of the electoral college, they voted him back. Instead of him to be declared as a loser, he finally be declared as a winner. And Hillary Clinton, who has the majority people she was declared as a loser. So virtually you can see that the system of democracy, even in that of the United States of America, differ from ours here, even though we claim that we copied everything and we are practicing same. But in reality, you find out that there are some ingredients that when you go to United States of America, you see that they are not compatible with what we are practicing here. Then in every democratical aspect where you have the basic principle of government, the first thing that will also come into your mind is the rule of the law, as explained by what? Evidence means the superiority of the law as administered by the courts or courts of the land over any legislature. It simply denotes that everybody must obey the law. You see, you are in the Department of Political Science. I will know the first thing that will come into your mind, having understood the concept of politics, the next thing that will come into your mind is the rule of the law. Here we have the three basic principles underlying the idea of what? The rule of the law. The rule of the law emphasizes that there must be what? Equality before the law. The second aspect has to do with the supremacy of the law. The third aspect of it is the right to personal liberty, and it is a shrine in the Nigeria Constitution. When you go to chapter 4 of Nigeria Constitution, specifically when you go to section 33 down to section 43, so to say, you find out that all these rights are embedded there. The right to fair hearing, the right to dignity, the right to liberty, the right to personal privacy and what, etc., etc. So you can find out that the rule of law has actually contributed to the survival of what? The democratic system, or the survival of the government itself. Without the rule of the law, where would you see the government? The government would seem to be what? Disappeared. So as a student of political science, more especially now that you are in 200 level, it is important for you to know the rule of the law, so that it will help you in your day in, day out. It helps to maintain the orderly society by ensuring that the constitution, the rules and the regulations are what? Maintained. Second, the rule of the law ensures equality and justice in the society by seeing to that all are equal before the common law of the land. Let me also emphasize, you students, some of you have the belief that the law or the justice is only made for the parties who have interest in the matter. No, it goes beyond that. That's why the justice is to be seen in three trafficking ways. Justice to the complainer, justice to the defender, and justice to the public. Because the public will also be interested in every given matter, especially the state. For instance, you have a disagreement with another person which led to the killing of the other person. Even the family of that deceased person said, we are not interested in the matter. No, the state will say no. The state is representing both the parties. So be it as the general public interest, she must be able to work to the success of even the person who is already dead. So virtually the importance of the rule of law has actually helped in the sustainability of democracy. And once you are talking about democracy or government, you don't take away the fundamental human rights. These are virtually ingredients that even if you go to at least in the international organization, the first thing you find out there talks about the right, the international human right. And these are the rights that are basically vested in people. They are inalienable rights. You can't take them away, no matter how rich you are. Those are the rights that you can't get them out of these individuals. So fundamental human rights of a citizen in any country are those rights that the country has to define and is ready in the protect. It must be well protected. They are the rights that are basic and essential for human existence. It is there in the 1999 Constitution as amended of Nigeria. The fundamental rights were described as follows: right to life, right to dignity of human person, right to personal liberty, right to fair hearing, right to private and family life, right to freedom of thought, conscience and religion, right to what? Freedom of expression and praise, right to peaceful assembly and association, right to freedom of movement, right to freedom from discrimination, compulsory acquisition of properties. The above stated rights of citizens can what? Safeguard and restricted in the principle, in the aspect of our constitution. And another good aspect that has to do with the fact of government and constitution has to do with the fact that separation of power, it is seriously needed, especially when you are practicing presidential system of government. The principle of separation of power was propounded by two French philosophers, namely Jean Bodin, 1513 to 1596, and Baron de Montesquieu, 1689 to 1755. The idea of the principle is that the three organs of government must underline them more, students. Some of you are funny enough, you don't. Some of the areas when you know that they are contentious, you have to underline them. They must. Why they must? I know some of you will be surprised. The must is that it also stands as they shall. They shall. But the most, you must respect the principle of separation of power. So that if you're a lawmaker, you don't need to come up and say you are the law implementer or the law interpreter. It is not done. Even though in some cases, you find out that judiciary also make law now. That is the recent discovery. Because the Supreme Court judgment, they are equally part of the lawmaking process. Because it is the law at the highest. So the lower courts has to abide by such decisions. So you can imagine where they say is a must, it means you have to be kind of restricted to that so that you will obey it. By the time the separation of power is well obeyed, I don't think there will be that much problem. I know it will not end this lecture without saying anything concerning politics. You know, some in ordinary perspective they look at politics as either disagreement to agreement or agreement to disagreement. But there are proponents, there are good scholars who also put it before us. Especially the word of politics is derived from where? The Greek word seen as what? Polis, which means city states. In his treatise on human associations, Aristotle 384 stated that the most sovereign and inclusive association is what? The polis. It means politics has actually come to balance the equation. Students, it is very important for you to know this because, when two parties are disagreeing, it makes it very easy for people not to decide who becomes the next leader. So, in that respect, people were given the opportunity to vote for the leader of their choice. So, that's why to the Greek people, they see it as what? The polis, it is called, whose essence is that establishment of government, lawmaking, enforcement, and eliciting obedience from the members of the society. And I will not end this class without giving you some scholastic definition of politics, like the Robert Dow, 1915 to 2014, view politics as what? The interplay of contending actors in which one actor always attempts to gain a relative advantage over the other. You can see it. Going by this definition, students, you will agree with me that yes, when you are able to gain an advantage over others in some certain decisions, it means that is politics have actually occurred. Let me give you an example for those of you that you are seated there and you are married. You see, the marriage itself is full of politics. The kind of food you want to eat. Your wife might tell you, no, I'm not ready today to pound this pounded yam for you. So let's come back to either the amala or what have you. It is politics. You know, politics does not mean until when you contest an election. Go to the military setting. You find out that what they are doing there purely is politicking. Their appointment, their promotion, their transfer, etc., etc. Now, according to Helu Hazing, 1915 to 2004, politics is concerned with what? With the conditions and consequences of the human action. Don't venture into politics because you want to enjoy it. No. It goes beyond that. some of the leaders you are seeing today, they've been to politics just to manage the consequences of the human action. Now they thought, going by the Obafemi Awolowo 1909 to 1987, he defined politics as the science of the heart of government. Harold D. Maxwell defined it as he who gives what, when, and how. Students, I know going by this mass definition, you will be surprised that what is what, and what is why, and what is how. Is there? That is basically, you might have programs and policies that motivated you to contest for the election. But at the end of the day, in the Nigeria content, you find out that many people venture into politics without even knowing why they are venturing into politics. And that's why we are getting it wrong, and most at times. The various views on the meaning of politics can be grouped as follows: politics as the operation of the state, politics as the implementation and execution of public policy, policy as the authoritative allocation and distribution of power, values and resources, politics as pursuit of public interest. As I made mention earlier that I am not the only person that I'm going to take this course. I think maybe coming to this the last topic that has to do with pre-colonialism, if we are done with it, then I will allow the other people who will be coming in the next class to continue. But what is this? Some of you, when you see pre-colonialism, you begin to wonder, which concept is this? You have to understand it from the pre. That PRE will make you to understand it in a better form. Pre means before. Yes, some of you, I know, you may be hearing this pre for maybe your first time, but the meaning is before. Yes, that is the pre-colonial era, is the period before the coming of colonialism or colonial masters to Nigeria. Yeah, before the advent of European colonial masters on the coast of West Africa, there was in existence various systems of government, referred as the traditional political system in several parts of Nigeria. Yes, students, you know very well that even before the coming of colonial masters, we had our already made existing system of leadership. But with their advent now, which affected most of our system, that resulted to some of the sufferings we are undergoing today. Some will tell you that civilization, globalization, what all sort of, that once you agree to that, it means that country will develop one day. No, like when you look at W.W. Rostow, will tell you that until we are able to maintain the 5 stages of development, which if we don't do that, from precondition to takeoff stage, traditional stage, and down to maturity stage, otherwise Africa or Nigeria in particular will never develop. So it sounds very, very unbelievable. Now, this traditional political system had the organs of government also established, and principles of checks and balances. You know, we discussed about the separation of power earlier than this time around. The main objective of separation of power has to do with the fact that it checkmates each other. Yes, the checks and balancing the kind of leadership. So that's why in every democratic setting, it is expected that once the power is being separated, it will give you a better form of what? Administration and governance. As I mentioned earlier, that in Nigeria, prior to the coming of Europeans, different entities existed about 250 years, ethnic groups. Each of the ethnic groups maintain a different and independent system of administration. The majority ethnic groups of Nigeria has to do with the fact that we have Yoruba, Igbo, and Hausa. Some they used to put Hausa Fulani in Nigeria shall be discussed maybe in our subsequent class. But before I go, I think this I want you to have it at the back of your mind that today we are able to define the concept government, because that is the main objective. At the end of the day, if students, you are not able to define those concepts, then the aim is defeated. Yes, and after the definition of the concept, we are able to discuss the 3 organs of government. And we do not stop over there. We went and look at the separation of power. Is it needed as far as the Nigeria system is concerned? Yeah, the answer is yes, because once the three organs are being checkmate and balanced, then it will give us a better understanding. And we also went further to look at the principle of law. Yes, which is also a very great ingredient as far as democracy is concerned. And we did not stop there. We went further to look at the rule of the law also. And finally, we looked at the pre-colonial administration, which I told you is before the coming of colonialism. And even though as at that, we put on to you students that, yeah, the methods were well organized, were well disciplined, but with the advent, so many things happened that today we are no longer seeing ourselves as one in most cases, because the tradition of Africa means that you must see yourself as your brother's keeper. But today we are seeing ourselves as our brothers otherwise. So thank you very much for this wonderful class. When we meet next, we will continue from where we stop. Thank you very much. May God bless you. Introduction.